Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. Today's guest is Karen Swan, a singer and guitarist from Birmingham. How are you doing, Karen?
I'm doing just grand, thank you. It's really good to be here, virtually.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Nice to have you. I mean, I'll explain. I used to do them like face to face, but obviously doing it over Google, you can speak to people all over the world. It makes it a bit more flexible.
Well, it's opened up all sorts of possibilities, hasn't it? So, it's good to, I mean, technology can be a pain, but it can also, it opens up a whole new universe, really.
Absolutely agree. So let's get started then. So for people that haven't heard of you before, how would you describe yourself as a musician and an artist?
A survivor. I've been going a long time, and I suppose, I mean, when you say from Birmingham, I was born in Birmingham, but I spent most of my life in the southwest, and I'm back in Bristol now, which is lovely. But I was back in the Midlands for a decade, and I think that where you are can colour what you produce. I sort of went back to my roots and did a whole new journey. My music is, I suppose, first of all, it was like as a child, it was a therapy for me, but it's become an integral part of me as time has gone by, and it's my voice, it's my way of communication, it's my way of interacting with the world, and just trying to make sense of things. I have strayed into electronica and electronic instruments, but I've always come back to my acoustic guitar, because my voice and my acoustic guitar have always felt fused together, and the words and the music and acoustic guitar seem to have a life of their own.
So where did it all start for you? How did you first get into music?
I have memories of being a very young child, and being placed in a big pushchair, and it was raining by this big hedge, and I was singing as the raindrops fell down, and I suppose I was using resonance, which I didn't understand at the time, but I would just make these noises, and I would feel nature as a force, and hear the sounds of nature. Um, at a very early age, I used to get my mum into trouble because she was a bit of a gossip, and I would hear her talking about the neighbours. Then I'd go into the back garden, and at the top of my lungs, I would shout things in what I thought was, I suppose, a sort of a song, and say terrible things about the neighbours. So that I would make these stories up, which became songs. So, I mean, that was when I was about 5 or 6, I suppose.
You mentioned earlier that music's kind of been your therapy. Talk me through that idea.
Okay, well, I had quite a weird upbringing. And I suppose these days the word dysfunctional is used quite a lot, but definitely a dysfunctional family. I was just left wild most of the time. Um, and before I really got into any musical instruments, I would just use my voice and sounds. Um, I was in my own little world, really. And if it wasn't for sounds, and then learning to read and finding poetry, spoken word, that was my world. And then I got, skipping forward a bit, I got thrown out of several schools, and in a very strange twist, my mum gave me a guitar. When I was 14, and I didn't know how to play it, but I just sort of sat with it and made sounds to it, and gradually over a year, I didn't know how to play chords or anything, but I sort of formulated my own way of playing, and that's what grew in to my therapy. So I would, to get away from the world that I lived in, my own familial world, I created my own universe, And a lot of it was to do with plants and animals and things that I foresaw. And that led me into finding out about more literature, painters, poets, and that's where a lot of it is based.
How does that sort of feed into your creative process? So talk me through, like, maybe when you first started writing songs.
When I first started writing songs, it was very separate, because I really wasn't very proficient on the guitar then. And what I realise now is I would sing either in harmony or disharmony with the sounds I was making on the guitar. I've kept one of those songs from that, because the first I wrote about 3 songs when I was 14, when I first got the guitar, and 2 of them I threw away. I do throw away an awful lot of what I do, but the one I kept, and I think it still stands up today. And I can hear that I'm singing sometimes an octave above what I'm playing, and I don't really know how I did it. I can't really get back into that girl that was playing without knowing certain things, but it created a sort of a quite an eerie sound. And people tend to say that to me, that that's why, but I don't know why, but people have called me an enigma several times. And I mean, I'm quite open, but it's just, I think I can take people by surprise. I'm never really what they expect me to be. And that's because it flows. It's not to write, it has to move me. I have to, it can be anything at all. It doesn't just have to be, although I do have some love songs, it's things that move me and enchant me. And it goes in there and it comes out as the song linked to the acoustic guitar. It's very linked to the way I play. I suppose, well, it's different. I do different ones. Some of it's fingerstyle, some of it's quite percussive, chord style guitar, but it's always linked to the voice. It comes as a package, and the words normally are formulating from traveling around, and maybe I might see something in nature or hear something that people say, and it links together at some primeval level. And then the sounds then link up with the feeling that goes through me into the guitar, and that comes out as the music, and it just seems to link together.
You mentioned that later on you had a better understanding of, like, music theory. How did you go about picking it up and learning it? Or was it something that just developed over time?
Well, when I was at school, not for very long, but when I chose to do music. But then I chose to throw it away, because I found the more I found out about reading music and how chords were put together, and it was changing how I was singing the songs and how together and allowing them. I was thinking, maybe things should, people were saying to me, well, you've got to have you've got to have an intro and a chorus and a middle eight, and I thought, that's what they're telling me I should be doing, and I threw all that away. So to this day, I mean, probably if you showed me a bit of music, I'd maybe pick it out, but I stopped myself doing that, and I just go with the feel of it. I'm not the sort of musician, and I so respect it. I've got a lot of friends that can just fling themselves into a jam. I could with my voice, but people who can just like read the notes and everything, I really admire. But it changed the way that I was actually singing and playing. So I couldn't do it. I had to let the music has to just grow on its own. Otherwise, it gets thrown away with me.
I think that's quite an important point, and I think a lot of musicians struggle with that, because you see a lot of people that are technically very proficient but not very creative as an artist. And I think sometimes it's because you feel like your art gets pushed into a box and you feel like you have to write in a certain way with a certain structure. but actually being an artist is kind of the opposite. So it's quite an interesting kind of comparison between the two.
That's exactly it. It's the feel with me. I think I could have taken a very different road. And, you know, I look upon people in awe. I mean, one of my absolute heroines is Hannah Peel. She's just amazing. She can do anything. But the way I am is there's a seed of something, and I nurture it and let it grow. And I just felt that's just the way I needed to be. I mean, I've been on the edges of things all my life. And that's how I suppose I've become comfortable with that. And some people through the years have been absolutely abhorred things that I've done. Oh, you can't. But gradually, I suppose the way that I do things has been more acceptable, and more people seem to work that way now. But unfortunately, if you want to be a musician and you want to get your stuff heard, quite often you do have to not play to formula, but you have to do stuff that people want to listen to. And maybe I've kicked against that. And I've just been lucky that some of my stuff people do enjoy listening to. But to get back to your point about, I mean, that's that in 2001, because I'm also an actor, and I made up my mind to go the corporate way, which obviously everything's fallen down now. And I thought, okay, I'll still be using my artistic ways, and that will pay the rent and feed me. And I can then get on with my real love of writing my songs. But it doesn't turn out that way, because your energy gets drained. So all the time I was having to put a lot of energy into doing the corporate stuff, but I just got absolutely drained and still didn't have time to put the energy into what I really wanted to do. It was still sidelined.
I think it's really hard for musicians to pay the bills with their music, you know, like especially these days with like streaming, and you can't really make money from like record sales anymore.
No.
How was that transition then, coming out of corporate into just doing what you love?
Well, I had a lot of health problems, and it made me realise an awful lot of it. We don't know how long we've got in this world, in this life, and what really matters to me. And I just thought, well, it's my songs. It's just that creative process. And then to say, look, that's been born. That song's been born. I mean, we still have to live, you know. But I think, especially in the last 3 years, the most important thing to me is the work. Is just letting the song be born. If people like it, that's wonderful. But if they don't, I'll still do it. You know, I'm still going to be doing it until I don't have any breath in me. The only thing is, as I'm getting older, I'd have to get a trusted friend. Probably got 2 trusted friends. And if I start sounding like some God knows what, I'd say, please just shoot me. Just tell me to stop. But until then, I'll just carry on, because it's there and it's coming out, and I'm allowing it to come out. But I don't want the focus of it is not to make money. The focus is it's there to be born. It's a creative process, and to me, it's a blessing. You know, it's something that's coming through me. People enjoy it. The people that don't, well, never mind. But I'm still going to do it.
I think sometimes musicians kind of take it for granted, you know, that they've got that talent and ability to do that. And some people don't have any sort of like creative outlet or talents, and that's quite hard sometimes. And it does give you like an escapism and like a way to really express yourself and get your emotions out.
It does, and people do it every way is valid. You know, however people want to come at it, every way is valid. This is just the way I am. I mean, I've got a very eclectic taste in music and artists, and I'm just amazed at some of the younger artists coming up now. You know, I was listening last night to a wonderful Bristol artist called Grace Carroll, and she just blew me away. I mean, my goodness, you know, there is so much talent out there, and people just do it. You know, don't go at it thinking, oh, I've got to make money from it, because that will kill it. You know, go from the starting point of, what am I feeling? What do I want to say? What do I want to allow to come through? And that, you know, creativity is so important to us as human beings. We have to understand that creativity is our spark.
I want to direct the conversation to your experience with like producing music and recording music. How does your approach to songwriting feed into that?
Well, I'm not very good, because I just do stuff, and I was very, very fortunate. I mean, I did get an album recorded in the late 90s, but that was only because I was pushed to do it. I'll just drift around and play for anyone who wants to hear me. Well, that means that a lot of it just gets lost. And I've got some wonderful friends in Birmingham. And when I was ill, they got together, and this wonderful friend called Dominic James Hyde got people to put money together, and they paid for me to make an album, which is what I'm still working on. And I had some amazing musicians. I mean, I have to say, my very good friend Jack Goodall, who actually we play together quite a lot, and he's amazing. You ought to look him up. If you look up Jack Goodall music, he's incredible. They gave everything for free, so I've got all these amazing tracks, and I'm hoping to put that out. But I'm useless at doing these things. You know, I just can't. I'm not very good technically. I do my best, and I'll put things up like on Bandcamp, and there's a few things out on different platforms, but they did all that for me. So I was given time in a wonderful studio called Bowyer Studios in Digbeth in Birmingham, and all these amazing musicians gave their time, and I think we've created a bit of magic. So hopefully soon, I mean, I've put some of them out as single releases, and they're on my Bandcamp. But I couldn't believe how people really had faith in my music, because I just drift about. I just drift about and play for whoever wants to listen to me. And I'm just not very grounded. I'm not sort of, oh, get down and produce, you know, and that's why I really admire people. I mean, look at the Anchoress. You know, she's done everything herself, same as Hannah Peel. They just do the music. They do everything. But I'm afraid I just bang away at my guitar, and the voice comes out, and it's just how I am, I'm afraid. You know, I need somebody to produce and direct me to do it.
I think, yeah, those sort of people are kind of obsessive over every part of the process. But I think for you, like, your love is just the creation of it, you know, the source of it at the start. So, you know, that makes perfect sense. So again, moving the conversation to like live performances, how does that feed into like how you play live and how you approach gigs?
I come alive at a live gig. I had the most amazing. I mean, I went to an open mic here. I've only been in Bristol 6 weeks, so I went to. They're called the Fat people, PHAT people. So the Cloak and Dagger, and they've got. I can't believe the amount of talent here in Bristol. It's just wonderful, and people never know what to expect. And I think it's lovely to see the wonder on their faces, and they just don't believe, because they can be quite excitable and quite energetic. And it's just great to see people interact with me and just get the gist of what I'm doing. And it was fantastic. It really was. I love doing all sorts of gigs, and I love the feeling of interacting with other musicians, and especially musicians that you can link with. It's a real gift that really get your stuff. And again, only really Jack Goodall, I feel, has ever really been able to interpret my songs. He just openly does it. And I've had other people, and they've sort of played all over it. No, they don't. It's not an intentional thing, but I think it can be quite scary if you're playing with someone that approaches music in the way I do, when it's such an integral part of me, of my personality, and all of my experiences. But I just love performing. I really do.
Yeah, I think the magic is really like when you can connect with the audience and you can see like what you're playing is actually affecting them, and you can see their reaction and like how they really get into it.
It's beautiful. It is. I mean, my thing, I think, has always been being able to make proper contact, which is why, don't get me wrong, I've done quite a bit of online stuff, but it's when I'm there with other beings where I can contact them with what I'm doing, and you get that almost static electricity feeling, and the connections there. I mean, it doesn't happen every time. It doesn't happen every time with really well-known people, but when it does, there's nothing like it. It's really not. It's wonderful.
With that in mind, then, how have you kind of found things with all the restrictions and the lockdowns?
The eccentric sort of antisocial part of me was all right with it, but I got COVID, you see. I've been really, really ill. So in fact, part of it, so I've got long COVID now, but fingers crossed and touch wood and all that business. At the time, I couldn't really do much anyway. So in a way, I was glad of it. There was as much as I could do to just literally get off the city, and for months couldn't do anything, couldn't breathe, so couldn't sing, and it gave me a breather, excuse the pun. And then when I started to get a little bit more energy, I found loads of songs coming, so it gave me time to actually let those songs come, and I've got a whole new batch now which I'm just putting together. So for me, it actually worked out very well, but there were times that were very dark, as I'm sure everybody, and also, I mean, life is uncertain, but as it is now, it seems like we've just been thrown into this whole chaotic, and it's very hard for I think for any human mind to be able to make sense of any of it. Very, very difficult for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's definitely been difficult for everyone, but I think for artists, it's given a bit of time to kind of reflect and really find yourself within your art.
Well, I hope so. I think it all depends on how people work. I think it knocked a lot of people for six, because they couldn't. Some people aren't very flexible. I think that is my saving grace, is I can be very flexible. I think that's a survival instinct. I think some people were very stuck in, oh, this is how it is, and like we go there and we get paid and we tour. Whereas I'm very much, well, if I can't do it that way, I'll do it a different way. And, as long as I can go out, even if I have to go back on the street and sing, that's what I'll do. I'll just keep on doing it. Where I've heard some people say, well, if we can't get paid properly, then I'm not going to do it. And I just find that breaks my heart, really, you know, because yes, it's lovely to get paid. It really is. But the money isn't the most important thing. I know it is when you've got nothing to eat. Of course it is. But we can't just let go of all of our beautiful creative songs because it's cutting your nose off to spite your face.
No, I completely agree with that. I think some musicians have found it hard, like if they get inspiration from socializing and being in social situations, and suddenly they're used to that as inspiration. Now they're just stuck in a room on their own. I think that's been quite difficult.
And you see, we have to think that some people are very, very vulnerable, and they can't. And I think that as well, the anxiety, the social anxiety, has been really quite breaking for some people. I mean, I found it difficult going back into social settings, but then I thought, well, you know, it's a big part of me, this having to mix with other people, and I just felt it was time to do that. But I completely understand how some people have been just this. I mean, they're just stuck. They still can't get out and socialise with people because maybe they're immunosuppressed, or you know, they're very anxious and they're very fearful, and it is a really difficult situation, I know. But I mean, hopefully things will get better.
Yeah, it's good that everything seems to be coming back to normal, and people seem to be coping quite well with it at the moment. But let's just hope that we don't get another spike through the winter.
No, I mean, a lot of the time is spent just saying, "Oh, there's this. Oh, I won't look at it." Okay, just you know, yeah. It's because it just seems like one horrible thing after the other, and that is when you do have whatever sort of creative thing, when you can really use that as your comfort and just, you know, go into a room and if you draw or you paint or you sing or you write words, you know, just let it flow. Just let it flow. And I think it's imperative now with the way that the world is. If you're a creative, but even if, you know, you don't think you're creative, just let it flow and see what comes out. It might just save you.
Absolutely agree. So Karen, it's been great chatting today. We're nearly out of time, but I'd like to ask you, what's the plan for the future from here? And then at the end, is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Okay. Well, for the future, I'm just very thankful to still be here. And I am going to carry on and do as much as I can with my songs and my music. I'm going to take it out there wherever I can for whoever wants to listen. And I just hope other people will realise that things are just changing. It's just flowing. You know, we're always going to be a creative race. Human beings are creative. We'll just go with the flow, and that's my thing now. Is I'm just going to put as much of my music out there as I can. And I want to say for people, you know, let's just live and let live. Let's love all life, all beings, and let's just be creative and go with the flow.
Thanks, Karen. That was beautiful. Really appreciate your time today. It's been great chatting.
It's been lovely to chat, and thank you for having me.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.